Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because we're going to dive into some incredibly fascinating research that will completely upgrade our understanding of learning neurobiology. You know, if you've ever felt like you're just putting in endless, grueling hours studying without actually seeing the results you deserve, trust me, you are not alone. Today, we're tearing down the conventional myths of learning and we're rebuilding your approach entirely from the ground up using hard science. Now, I want to kick things off by disrupting a pretty major assumption. What if I told you that the most common study methods used by millions of students around the world are actually scientifically proven to be a complete waste of time? Yeah, it's true. The things you probably do the most, like rereading your notes over and over or highlighting textbooks until the page glows, are actually sabotaging your long-term memory. They create a really dangerous illusion.
So, to fix this, we're going to look at 5 core pillars for accelerated learning. We'll cover the illusion of competency, focus architecture, active recall and spacing, the Feynman protocol, and finally, preventing burnout. Okay, let's dive into this framework.
Starting right off with Pillar 1, dismantling the illusion of competency.
To start, we really have to confront our standard, deeply ingrained study habits. You know the ones. They feel incredibly productive in the moment, but they totally fail to create any lasting neural connections. According to this landmark survey by researchers Karpicki, Butler, and Roediger, a staggering 84% of students rely on rereading notes or textbooks as their main study strategy. But here's the kicker. Cognitive scientists, like John Dunlosky in his comprehensive review, have rated highlighting and rereading as having incredibly low utility. It's literally the most popular method out there, yet it is arguably the least effective. Crazy, right?
So, the crucial point here is understanding exactly why we fall for this. It's called the illusion of competency. See, when you reread highlighted text, your brain is just using passive visual recognition. Because you recognize the words on the page, it feels like mastery. It requires very little metabolic energy, giving you this massive, false sense of confidence. But recognition is totally different from active retrieval. Recognizing a highlighted word on a page does absolutely nothing to build the actual neural pathways you're going to need to pull that information out of your brain during an exam.
Moving right along to Pillar 2. Mastering your focus architecture.
Before you can even begin to learn effectively, we've got to look at your physical study environment and eliminate this insidious phenomenon known as cognitive brain drain. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it highlights a fascinating 2017 study by Adrian F. Ward. They tested available cognitive capacity based purely on where a person's smartphone was located, face down on the desk, in a pocket or a bag, or in a completely separate room. And they found that the mere presence of your smartphone actively consumes your limited capacity attentional resources. Why? Well, because your brain has developed this automatic attention response to your phone. It treats it like a crying baby or a siren. So even when it's face down, you're unconsciously burning cognitive energy just to inhibit the urge to check it. The only way to fully restore your cognitive capacity is to literally put the phone in a completely separate room.
But beyond your physical environment, you really need to align with your biological clock. The human brain, it doesn't just operate on a steady, robotic 8-hour grind. It operates on ultradian rhythms, specifically a 90-minute wave. Your brain can sustain a highly focused, active phase for about 90 minutes. After that, neurotransmitters like acetylcholine and dopamine drop off, and you enter a rest phase where your brain practically demands 15 to 20 minutes of mandatory, genuine rest. If you push past that 90-minute mark without a break, you're literally just fighting your own biology. Your brain isn't a machine, so let's not treat it like one.
Which brings us to Pillar 3, active recall and spacing.
Okay, this is where we shift to the core mechanics of learning, pulling information out of the brain rather than just passively pushing it in. The foundational concept here is the testing effect. Actively retrieving information from memory significantly strengthens the neural pathways associated with that knowledge. In a really famous 2006 study by Roediger and Karpicki, students who used retrieval practice, testing themselves without looking at their notes, retained about 80% of the material after a week. The group that simply reread the material, they retained a dismal 34%. The actual effort of pulling the memory out is exactly what makes it stick.
But, active recall alone isn't quite enough, and here is why. The Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. First discovered way back in the 1880s, this curve perfectly illustrates a steep decline in the retention of newly learned information that begins almost immediately. Without any review, you're going to forget roughly 50% of new information within a single hour, and up to 70% within 24 hours. We literally have to actively interrupt this neurological decay.
And the way we do that is through spaced repetition. By reviewing information at gradually increasing intervals, think 1 day, 3 days, 7 days, 14 days, and then 30 days, you completely flatten that forgetting curve. You're basically reviewing the material at the exact moment of desirable difficulty, right when your brain is about to forget it. And this sends a massive signal that the information is essential for your survival, deeply encoding it right into your neocortex. It dramatically reduces your overall cognitive load, and honestly, it completely eliminates the need to do those stressful late-night cramming sessions before a big exam.
Let's hit Pillar 4, the Feynman Protocol.
Named after the brilliant Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman, this protocol is basically the ultimate metacognitive workout. It's designed to expose surface-level knowledge, cut right through technical jargon, and utterly destroy the Dunning-Kruger effect, where we wildly overestimate our understanding of a topic. The Roman philosopher Seneca actually said it beautifully, while we teach, we learn. This tabs directly into the protege effect. Teaching is a brilliant cognitive hack. It forces your brain to organize all that scattered information into a coherent narrative and simplify complex ideas. Simply put, if you can't explain it simply, you don't really understand it.
Let's move to and see how this builds into a really practical 4-step framework. Step 1, select a concept and just map out everything you know on a blank page. Step 2, teach it to a 12-year-old. Use simple, everyday language, no jargon allowed. Step 3, when you inevitably stumble or find gaps in your explanation, go back to the source material to review and refine. And Step 4, test your new simplified explanation and archive it for future review. This simplification process entirely dismantles that illusion of competence we talked about earlier. It's a total game changer.
And finally, Pillar 5, preventing burnout.
Look, you can use literally all the study hacks in the world, but if your physiological foundation is crumbling, you aren't going to retain a thing. We need to focus on deep neurochemical restoration. Obviously, getting a good night's sleep is absolutely critical for memory consolidation. But what happens during the middle of the day when your brain is just fried? Well, a traditional daytime nap can sometimes leave you feeling super groggy due to sleep inertia. Enter non-sleep deep rest, or NSDR, a protocol coined by Stanford neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman. NSDR practices, things like yoga nidra or guided body scans, actually drop your brain into a restorative theta wave state while you remain consciously awake. It's an amazing way to get all the benefits of a nap without actually falling asleep.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why NSDR is basically a cheat code for mental energy. In just 20 to 30 minutes, it shifts your nervous system from a highly stressed sympathetic state right into a calm parasympathetic state. It decreases the stress hormone cortisol, lowers your heart rate, and, get this, can increase dopamine in your brain's reward center by up to 65%. This completely resets your motivation and massively accelerates neuroplasticity, which allows your brain to wire in all the new information you just studied, all without that post-nap grogginess.
So, we've broken down the whole shebang. We dismantled the illusion of competency, mastered that 90-minute focus architecture, harnessed active recall and spaced repetition, applied the Feynman technique, and learned how to restore our dopamine levels with NSDR. Which leaves us with one really critical choice. Will you keep trying to just manage your time, or will you start managing your neurochemistry? It is time to shift from being a passive consumer of information to an elite cognitive athlete. Put your phone in the other room, actually test yourself, and start working with your biology, not against it.